Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Happy to take a couple questions.
And it's hard to hear, so there's a mic in the back. Let's have questions.
Governor, welcome back to Syracuse.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Thanks,
colder
Andrew.
than the last time you were at the fairgrounds. Couple questions. First of all, you paint a very rosy picture when it comes to hospitalizations. I'm not sure the hospital leaders would share that rosy picture that you have, despite all the resources that have come toward them, the ambulance contract and the National Guard. Also, I was in Oswego County today where 12 students refused to go into school with a mask on, so their principal locked them out. With this court battle kind of back and forth between tonight and the end of the week, what policy should people follow? What would you say to those students who will not wear a mask based on this court order last night? As a student yourself, would love to protest.
Well, I would never protest in a way to compromise public health. I assure you that. That is not who I am, and nor anybody. I would simply say that we disagree 100% with the conclusion of the judge who did, in his opinion, thought that the Department of Health did not have the authority to protect public health. A judge in Albany, same fact pattern, came up with the opposite conclusion. So we believe this will be settled very shortly. I'm encouraging parents and students to continue doing what they're doing, because the last thing I want to see is a different trend because people gave up on the masks early. Now, I am so looking forward to the day to say these are history. We don't have to do this any longer. All of us are. I don't want to keep any requirements for safety in place a day longer than necessary, but I will not do it a day before we can do it safely. And that is my commitment. So I encourage people to continue to follow what has been in place, follow for the main reason, this is why we have kids in schools. Look at what's happening around the rest of the country. People aren't taking the same steps we took. They were not aggressive in getting testing kits out. They don't have a mask requirement. Kids were getting sick, they're going home, and their educations have been disrupted. I didn't want to see that happen here in the state of New York. And with respect to hospitals, we are hands-on with them to deploy everything from our National Guard. And just on the National Guard, in a couple of weeks, we'll have our very first class of medically trained National Guards graduate, because I said, I have all these great National Guards, can they go into hospitals and nursing homes? And I told them there were only a certain percentage were trained with the medical background they need. I said, okay, then everybody gets trained. So we're going to be ramping up and adding another cohort of students in that classification. So we're aware of what's going on in hospitals. I'm not sugarcoating the experience in a hospital, and we're continuing to have 32 hospitals that can't do elective surgeries because they don't have capacity, but you can't argue with the numbers. I mean, that decline in people being hospitalized due to COVID is extraordinary. So that is a metric that I look at, and I will continue to applaud that and say that is happening in the right direction.
Hi, Governor. For your administration, what are the next steps that you guys are taking when it comes to the court hearing? And then, is there a metric that you see or a day that you see when it comes to kids unmasking in school that you feel you'll be comfortable to say it's time for them to take the mask off?
That's an excellent question, and I've been monitoring this very closely because we have to look at what's going on. I can look at childhood cases. During the first wave, there were almost no cases of children getting sick, almost none. It was such a rarity. People thought kids were safe. Omicron changed that dynamic. We realized that children were becoming sick and becoming hospitalized, especially after exposure to family members after the holidays. We saw that because they literally were safer in school. So I'm watching the numbers. We'll look at what the numbers were before they went into effect. When the mask mandate went into effect, it was my first day on the job as governor. Wow, what day was that? I think it was August 24th. And we saw the trend happening and occurring where the kids, we wanted to get them back, but people were anxious about sending their children back. I said, here's how we can get kids back in school. So I'll be looking at our positivity, looking at rates of vaccination in regions. We can get those numbers up, I'm going to feel better. I'll tell you right now, I'll feel a lot better if more kids are vaccinated about that. But also hospitalizations, how many pediatric hospitalizations there are. So I have a lot of metrics to look at, and we will get to that day. We'll absolutely get to that day, and I'm looking forward to that as well. First part of your question was, you asked about is that the answer? In terms of dealing with the case. Well, at 2 o'clock today, there was a hearing on our appeal, and the judge said he'll either give his decision later today or tomorrow. So we're optimistic about that, and then, we'll pursue all of our options.
Governor, would you consider going through the legislature since that seems to be part of the issue with the court ruling?
We disagree with their premise that it has to go to the legislature, but as I said, as I'm looking at all my options, that is certainly out there. But we're going to see, I believe we'll win on the merits today or tomorrow when that decision comes down. And if not, we do have all those other alternatives, absolutely.
One more question? We're good?
All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming out.